Susan and I just got back from an awesome trip.
Super awesome.
And we wanted to share a preview of the upcoming vlogs that we're going to have by doing a top 16 countdown. So these top 16 things could be things we saw,
Things we ate,
things we want to visit again,
and things we interacted with.
and unique features of the U.S. So let's get started. So let's start with number 16. These are the National Park Service units that we explored. So here are the 16 National Park Service units that we touched. Lake Roosevelt National Recreation Area, Glacier National Park,
Little Bighorn National Battlefield, Devil's Tower National Monument,
Badlands National Park, Wind Cave National Park,
Mount Rushmore National Memorial, Scotts Bluff National Monument,
the Mormon Trail National Historic Trail, the Oregon National Historic Trail,
California National Historic Trail, and Pony Express National Historic Trail.
Fort Laramie National Historic Site, Golden Spike National Historic Site.
And the final two, Grand Teton National Park and Yellowstone National Park. Number 15. We saw or interacted with 15 different varieties of wildlife on our trip, and those included bison, bear, elk, prairie dogs, trumpeter swans, deer, pronghorn antelope, chipmunk, mules, bighorn sheep, ground squirrels, geese, mountain goats, horses, and cows. Lots of them.
What do you mean, lots of cows? I mean, we only saw a ton in every state.
Lots of cows.
Yeah, Montana especially. More cows than people. Number 14. The number of times we crossed the border between a state. So, some were very basic border crossings. Washington to Idaho, Idaho to Montana,
Etc.
etc., etc. The weirdest day that we had was when we did 5 border crossings in one day. We started in the state of Utah, crossed into Idaho, crossed into Wyoming, crossed back into Idaho, only to cross back into Wyoming.
Yes.
So, needless to say, we got plenty of pictures with signs that day. The only one that we weren't able to get an actual welcome to state sign was in Yellowstone National Park, where the Montana-Wyoming border is actually the 45th parallel, and Yellowstone National Park denotes that with a 45th parallel sign saying that you're halfway between the North Pole and the equator, which is also cool.
So it's pretty cool. Yeah. Number 13 happens to be the number of days we were on the road for this trip. We covered lots of miles on all kinds of highways and roads, including paved ones, gravel ones, dirt ones. We saw plenty of mountains, lakes and rivers, rolling prairie land, and everything was beautiful.
And don't forget the cows. Number 12. The number of nights away from home. It was great to get away. We saw lots of great scenery, cows, visit new places, lodged in a variety of different locations. After a while though, it was great to get back home in our own bed.
It's always good to
and
get
we
back.
slept really good that first night back.
Number 11. This happens to be the number of national parks, monuments, and memorials that we visited. So those included many of the ones we already mentioned, but that would be Glacier, in this order, Glacier National Park, Little Bighorn National Battlefield, Devil's Tower National Monument.
Oh, sorry, you have that one.
There we go.
And I had to request this one by mail because we couldn't find it at the park.
No.
Thank you, Devil's Tower, for sending me it. You're awesome.
Yes, thank you. Badlands National Park, Wind Cave National Park, Mount Rushmore National Monument.
Memorial.
Sorry. Scotts Bluff National Monument, Fort Laramie National Historic Site, Golden Spike National Historic Site, Grand Teton National Park, and last but certainly not least, Yellowstone National Park. We really want to revisit a few of these sometime in the future and explore more of them, especially Glacier National Park, because we did not get to see hardly any of the park, and you'll find out why in the vlog.
So part of this trip was to see a lot of the country, but also to get a bunch of rail fanning in. So number 10 are the different rail fanning sites that I rail fanned on the BNSF Highline sub. Now, for those of you not into railroading, the BNSF Highline goes from Whitefish, Montana to Shelby, Montana. And it includes all of Marius Pass, which it goes along US 2 along Glacier National Park. So the 10 locations that I did rail fanning on that subdivision include Whitefish, Coram, Belton, the tunnels between Nyack and Belton, the Nyack Flats, Paola, Essex, the Sheep Creek Trestle, Summit, and Two Medicine Bridge and East Glacier. It was a lot of fun.
Number 9, we lodged in 9 different cities on our trip. Some were just layover stops, basic hotels along the way, but there were a couple of unique stays, and those included Isaac Walton Inn, which was in Essex, Montana, along the BNSF Highline. Under Canvas Mount Rushmore in Keystone, South Dakota, where we actually stayed in a tent and was actually considered glamping.
We had a king-size bed, so we weren't roughing it.
Yes, it was awesome. And lake lodging cabins in Yellowstone National Park.
Those were really cool.
Those were very cool too.
So, as I mentioned before, rail fanning was a major part of this trip. Well, I'm a huge BNSF railroad fan. Grandma used to work for Burlington Northern, so I have a little bit of a soft spot in my heart for BNSF. So I saw trains on 8 different BNSF subdivisions on this trip.
Which takes us to number 8.
Yes, number 8. The different BNSF subdivisions. Kootenai River, Highline, Bighorn, Butte, Valley, Angora, Sand Hills, and Copper City were the 8 BNSF subdivisions that I saw trains on. Now, I didn't get all of these on film, but we may have been driving along the freeway and saw a train going by. It was still in that subdivision, so I saw trains on 8 different BNSF subdivisions.
Number 7. We visited 7 states on this trip, which included Idaho, Montana, South Dakota, Wyoming, Nebraska, Utah, and then back to Washington.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
So, on a trip this size, we ended up crossing the Continental Divide several times. So number 6 is the number of places that we crossed the Continental Divide. Now, we ended up crossing the Continental Divide a total of 8 times, but 2 of those locations were duplicates of what we had already crossed. So we crossed it in 6 separate places. So we crossed it first on Marius Pass, which is on US 2, along the BNSF Highline sub, between Essex, Montana, and East Glacier. We also crossed it on I-80. Now, what's unique about this Continental Divide crossing is the Continental Divide is actually split at that point around a basin which doesn't drain anywhere. So you see two signs on I-80 saying Continental Divide, but yet you're really only crossing it one time from east to west in our case. We crossed the Continental Divide again from the south entrance to West Thumb in Yellowstone National Park. And when you go from West Thumb to Old Faithful in Yellowstone, you actually cross the Continental Divide twice. You go east to west, and then on the same mountain pass, you cross back over from west to east. And that's the best way to keep track of what side you're on, is west to east or east to west. The final time that we crossed the Continental Divide, was on Homestake Pass, which is outside of Butte, Montana on I-90. Interesting note about this one, that is the highest point that I-90 crosses in its entire journey from Boston, Massachusetts to Seattle, Washington.
Super cool. Number 5, we visited 5 major national parks. And I know we already mentioned them, but we're going to say them again. Glacier National Park in Montana, Badlands and Wind Cave National Parks, both in South Dakota, Grand Teton National Park, and Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. Again, we would love to revisit and explore more of these parks, especially Glacier, Wind Cave, and Yellowstone, and you'll find out why in the vlogs.
It was a 13-day road trip, so we couldn't spend a ton of time in each location, and this was mainly to hit highlights of a variety of different things to see what we wanted to come back and see again. We had a lot of fun, we saw a lot of cool stuff, but yes, you don't have time to spend an in-depth, long period of time in each of these parks. But at the same time, I would rather see them and go, that's a place that I want to spend some time and really explore. So on our trip, we visited 4 of the 7 state capitals. Now, we visited Helena in Montana and went inside their state capitol building. We actually made a jaunt out to Pierre, South Dakota, and it was the only point that we crossed into Central Time on our entire trip. But we visited their state capitol building there, had a great conversation with the secretary of the governor's office. That was very informative. We learned a lot about South Dakota from that conversation, especially about school districts and what their state was doing with the whole COVID-19 stuff, because that's a big overarching theme on this road trip due to going during the pandemic.
And they also had the most friendly staff.
Yeah.
Friendliest staff of all of them.
We stopped by the Wyoming State Capitol building in Cheyenne. And finally, we stopped at the State Capitol building of Utah in Salt Lake City. Now, Salt Lake City has had a large number of COVID cases, so the state of Utah has closed their Capitol building to visitors, and only people with essential government business are allowed inside. So unfortunately, we weren't able to take a tour of that one, but we did visit the Capitol grounds. We saw the Capitol. We took the picture, got the not the postcard.
But we could at least say that we were there.
And it's a very pretty Capitol building, and it's one that I would love to, in the future, go back and actually go inside and take a tour of.
Number 3. We ate at a lot of restaurants, but our 3 favorite restaurants that we got to eat at on this trip included Cracker Barrel, Chick-fil-A, and In-N-Out.
Now, you might be going, well, those don't sound too special.
But they're special to us because they're not in our area. We have to drive hundreds of miles to get to some of these. And anytime we are close by, we make sure we stop in and enjoy.
Finally, we're down to our number 2 here. That is the number of new states that I visited.
Woo-hoo.
So Susan and I have goals of visiting all 50 states.
We're so close.
Prior to this trip, I was sitting at 46 states visited. Prior to this trip, Susan was sitting at 47 states visited. we only share one state in common that the other has not visited, that being Hawaii. Obviously, because it's Hawaii, we are saving that to be each of our 50th states. So we needed to find a way to pick up Wyoming and South Dakota for me.
Which I've been to several times. So.
I haven't.
Yeah.
So we didn't know when or where we were going to do it, but we knew it had to be a road trip.
Yeah.
So when our cruise in June got canceled, we weren't able to go to Alaska.
It was very sad.
We decided that a road trip was probably the best way to get a vacation this summer.
And now was the time to take full advantage, pick up these 2 new states for him, and we did it justice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I thoroughly enjoyed South Dakota and Wyoming. Beautiful areas. I mean, we basically saw all corners of Wyoming. Actually, we did go through all
4 corners of Wyoming.
Yeah. And we saw a good chunk of South Dakota. We spent time in the Black Hills. We saw the prairies of South Dakota. Driving out to Pierre, we saw the Badlands.
Yeah.
We saw a lot in South Dakota, and it is a beautiful state. I'd be more than willing to go back and visit it again.
Yeah.
Along with Wyoming.
That was really good.
Finally, our number one.
Number 1!
That's right, number 1.
Woo! One epic road trip.
So enjoy our intro for our vlogs now, and look forward to seeing those soon.
Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so, and hit the bell icon so you get notified when we upload the vlogs, and it's gonna be awesome.
It is.
You're gonna want to see it.
So enjoy the intro. Hi, I'm Matthew.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Together we love to travel. The saying goes, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
Well, 2020 dealt us the biggest lemon of all.
Except being sourpusses about it, we made the best lemonade ever.
An epic road trip!